Alcohol. How'd you quit drinking?
The demons don't have control over me. I have control over them.
Recovery is the reason I get to do everything else in life that I get to do.
You talk negativity. You talk, I can't, I won't, I'll fail. That's what you're going to get.
The important thing is what you feed your mind.
I came home, I had a gallon of whiskey.
Words is, are you okay?
Thank you.
And that is so powerful. I mean, it is.
The human species is the only species that doesn't wake up daily to strive to reach their full potential.
So yeah, Deborah, you can start whatever you want. Give us a little background on your, when you was younger and your life.
Besides brain injury and doing all this, I'm on a mission also to help young people.
That's awesome.
To really see what rags to riches, or I got a Mercedes. I bought that when I was before my brain injury. And to have been in poverty to get there and how I got there. And I still believe it can happen today.
Yeah. It's
just certain things you have to do. And I believe people have been swarmed with negativity too much, young people, and when you're in the age of also from 30 to 50.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Of if you don't do this, if you don't do that, then you're not going to go somewhere. Or if you don't do this and you don't do that, I'm just going to try to see if I can make it real simple.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
With not simple, but what you got to do periodically as I moved along in my life.
Yeah, well, let's. So
let's.
Okay, so Deborah's here today. Mm-hmm. Where'd you come from, Deborah?
I'm from Alpharetta, Georgia. Actually, was born where the Atlanta airport is, and I remember seeing the planes, little bitty planes, with my daddy when I was a little girl at the airport when it was rinky dinky, and then we lost our house, and I moved to a little area called Red Oak, Georgia.
Red Oak.
Yeah, and this very you see them around here in Kentucky, but it's a 4-room house. But it had no windows, a toilet that was falling through the floor, and no type of washer and dryer set up, no porch. It was kind of a little bitty square porch, and that was off from the back door because when you lose a home, and especially a mother who a husband had just took off and left 7 kids. So I was the last. And my sister is 2.5 years older than me, was involved with this house. And then my brother, who is, I think he's 75 now, so 5 years older than me. And so he was a little bit involved with it, but the rest of them, my mother managed when I was 6 to be able to keep that house with my brothers and sisters and myself working at the age of 10. I had a paper route, put money in, and to keep the house until finally no more, and the foreclosure door came. But the 5 were graduated from high school.
Okay.
So that was her blessing, that she didn't have to house, more than that.
Now, what brought you to Kentucky?
I had a very good, let's step back. Before.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a very good job, and I was in Georgia, and I was a project manager, and I did the slow road because there again, I'm going to go back to poverty. And if I had the picture, and I could send it to you if you want me to, is of the house, what it looked like, and then eventually with what my mother and I and my sister really worked hard on it. I learned how to be a carpenter. I learned how to
That's awesome.
I learned how to be a gardener. I learned how to shovel rocks. I mean, I did all sorts of stuff. But
Yeah.
anyway, plus studied, maintained my grades.
And
And
how old was you
when
at this time?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I was when we moved there, I was in 8th grade. We were in the leaving of it, the trauma, her selling furniture. Mm-hmm. That's all trauma
yeah.
for children.
No, that's yeah.
Selling furniture, seeing her cry,
Right.
dining room sets, furniture. That lasted for about a year and a half to get money in, besides all the other little bits my brother. Well, it was lots. One of my brothers, used to. I ate airline food because one of my brothers worked for one of these airline services as it was developing, and he used to bring home airline food so I could have something to eat.
Right.
That's how tough it was.
Yeah.
So, and everything. So I don't want anybody to think as I go along in my road that, and you saw what I drove up in.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. Right. No, I get it. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
that-
well, we all got to work to get to.
we all got to work
Yeah,
to get where
right.
we're going. So anyway, I was in the 8th grade and I walked into Hateville High School and told my friends that day I was leaving. And they didn't have no clue whatsoever. Never saw them again because it was so far away to this little road on in Red Oak.
Yeah.
It was trees across, and in the back was trees, and about 4 neighbors on that street, 4 or 5, and stuff, and it was sparsed out. And I was used to living more kind of like the 1945 homes in a community and stuff like that. Now, this was just totally out in the country. But they did have a bus line, and we didn't have a car. So you walked up the hill, and you got to a bus. But one thing I'm going to say, as I grew up in there and ended up at a rich high school, that's one reason why I got a very good education. It was called Lakeshore High School in College Park. It doesn't exist anymore. But it, I wouldn't trade it for any housing or growing up in a huge housing with our type of financial numbers and what we were living with, because I had nature around me. I had a dog.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of, when I look back and my sister looked back, beautiful, beautiful, fun, interesting times, even though it was hard. And in fixing things when we came home, we had termites one time
Oh man.
and Mother didn't know it, and my sister and I came home, and my sister looked at me and went, "Look at that, Deborah." And I went, "Oh, my God." And she went and grabbed some duct tape, and she put duct tape all over the wall. And then we painted it before Mother got home, and Mother never knew we had termite swarms all in that room.
Man.
We just did what we could do. And so we weren't influenced by negativity of others,
Right.
As you know what I'm trying to say.
Right. Because you was more out away from.
Yeah, if I would have been in a
Big city.
housing that was clustered with, I've seen them up north in various places around the world. If I would have been there and something like that, I can see where poverty can continue from one person to the next person to the next person because they don't know how to get out of the box.
Right. Yeah.
You know. But anyway, so we lived there, and then my sister graduated, and she went to work, and she bought my glasses and stuff like that. And then after that, she got married, and then it was just me and my mother. And then I had another sister that ended up getting a divorce and brought in a child, which, that's what you do. And so when I graduated, we decided, or my mother and my older sister decided we're going to move to an apartment. And that's, we ended up moving to apartment area and stuff. And so that was my first experience with apartments, and not my last. I had plenty of them.
Yeah.
So as I was going through school, two things I will tell you about school, or several things rather about school when you're poor.
Yeah.
Black, white, orange, red, whatever. Doesn't matter when you're poor. One, I never had a date.
Yeah.
I was the top majorette in my school. The best, they say, in the whole time the school was there. But I never had anybody in my class or school ever ask me out. And you know why? Majority of them were rich.
Right, because of the school you went to.
Mm-hmm. And I learned then, rich people don't marry or date poor people.
Right.
That poor.
Yeah. Right.
In the fairy tale world, they do.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
maybe,
No, I get what you're saying.
Maybe in some areas of the world, in the countryside, that's overlooked.
Right. I get. Yeah.
Do you
right.
get?
I understand exactly what. Yeah.
Where I'm coming
And
from?
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was, yes, I had a high grade point average, and we had a nice school counseling group. Ladies who were, some of them might have been parents, but a couple of them were well educated, and they pushed me towards business and just going out and working after school, whereas they didn't look at my numbers and take me serious when I went in there and asked about college. Do you understand where I'm coming from there?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because you from a lower class, and they were just like,
Didn't matter.
Right.
Let's get her just out there working because that's where she comes from.
Right.
And so I was in a competition with FBLA to do a speech. And the funny thing about it, my neighbor from Hateville, who lived just right around the corner, won. We were the two top, and she won. And I just loved it because when I knew her, she was real quiet.
Right.
So when she grew up in high school at Hateville, where I left, she had developed into a more outgoing person.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
I thought it was awesome.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome how we can change just by, having a job. Just becoming someone that we never thought we'd become, and then now you're this outgoing person. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and so, so she won the FBLA thing and Future Business Leaders of America, if you didn't know what that was. And that was my senior year. So I went ahead and went half a day to school on the last 2 semesters and worked because I wasn't getting anywhere. with them and didn't know how. And one time I went to a college and got the paperwork. And they told me, they said, take it home to your mother. This is after I got out of school. Take it home to your mother and have her sign the paperwork. And we can get you started in college. And so I got real excited. And
Well, yeah, I bet.
and everything. I took it home to Mom, and she said, Deborah, you have to work for a living. And she says, I'm not going to sign no paperwork because I cannot afford to put you through college. She did not understand. See, when you're in poverty and when someone is working that hard, my mother works 7 days a week
Right,
in
yeah.
retail. She never thought at 41 she was going to be raising 7 kids and stuff.
Right.
So she didn't know anything about college. She did not know the opportunities during that time, which was Jimmy Carter era, that you could get some opportunity with low income. And I didn't know how to tell her.
Right.
And she just says, you just think you're just smart and you just know everything, you know. She kind of had a... So anyway, I said, no, Mama. I says, they said that if you just sign this and I can get help. Well, she didn't do it. So I had to go to a notary and I had to notarize that she wouldn't help me. And then I tried it, and I couldn't afford to go full time because the money that they gave me, due to Mother wouldn't give her income, due to all these other things that you have to, I think they called the FSLA back then. I don't know, the financial aid form.
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
get assistance.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that.
Yeah. Well, she didn't know how to, she didn't want to do that. So that form then did not give me enough backing to get enough money. So I only went at least, and I was going to do psychology. That's what's amazing, being an engineer. I was going to do psychology, and then I worked half the day, and so a professor called me in his office, and he says, you're doing very well. And he said, I think you want to be a doctor in psychology. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you, it's a long road in Hunt. And he was real frank with me. You do not have the money to take that road. I can tell already.
Right.
You're already tired with the first year and everything. So he didn't discourage me. He just woke my eyes up.
Right.
You know,
Right. That's good.
that
And I mean, where it didn't discourage you, you know.
he opened up
Yeah.
my eyes, because at that point, what I did is that, okay, I'm going to go back to that community college, and I'm going to take a test, and I'm going to see what I'm good at, if they have something like that, because the professor told me something about it.
Right.
And so I did, and it ended up being self-employed, entrepreneur, no money, an engineer, and a computer systems analyst was just coming out. And then I got to step back a little bit more. During that time period, when I left the house, I couldn't type worth anything. I ended up being a lineman and a cable installer. And I'm talking about high voltage.
Oh.
And I was I weighed about 110, 5'1", and it's amazing that I did it. I did it on jobs. It's amazing I pulled wire. It's amazing. But what they really liked for me to do, because I had little hands, was to go into the job areas, the construction areas. You know, they were big, some were small, and stuff, and do all the little wiring for the electrical lighting, do the plugs, all the little stuff that the guys did. They wanted to pull wire.
Right.
They wanted to put stuff through the more difficult things that was
Right.
harder. Now, on the high voltage, though, when I went to the locations for that, I had to pull my weight. There was just, if I was going to go from $3 an hour to $16 an hour, and that was a lot of money then.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely a lot of money back then. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Then I had to pull my weight on
Right.
that. And so I figured out how to leverage my body out to where I would pull my hands up high and I would lean back and drop. It's amazing my butt isn't broken.
Doing it so many years.
Stuff. And then I went, I don't know if I can do this long. So that's why I ended up with some cable
And how long did you do that?
For, it was about a year.
About a year. Okay. Yeah.
And
You probably would have had a broken butt if you'd done it too much longer.
And then I went into the cable. Got transferred because that locked in. Because I knew how to climb poles.
Yeah.
And
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
I had to.
Right.
And we're talking about the real stuff with the
Right.
little pointers.
Yeah. The back in the way you really had to climb. Right.
And I've got one picture that these guys took of me that it doesn't look very attractive, but I'm like, I got up there. It's 35 feet, and they were...
Man, that's high. That's high just being, held by a little, rope that you're kind of like just...
Yeah, you lean out,
Yeah.
and you just pull it up.
I've seen guys do that, and I'm like,
Lean
ooh,
out, pull
man,
it up.
that takes a
lean out.
special person.
It's called driven from you. I had a drive of not living in poverty.
Right. Right.
And when I knew $3 an hour or $1, it was like $1.50 up to $3, and I was a terrible waitress. It didn't work either. Is that you could barely survive as a woman. You did have to get married, and nobody was knocking at my door. I just don't. I look back now, and I think it was because of some was my looks, the wild hair, curly hair I had, but a lot of it was. I was raised by a woman who worked hard, so that's all I knew.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised, and it shows up today, I wasn't raised by a feminine woman who had time for femininity and to do things around the house and various things and play, dolls with me or do whatever with me, So I think she taught me to be tough and strong and go wherever I was going,
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, to an extent, that's a good advantage for you, I mean.
And so what happened, so then I was... I need to run up to get this story a little bit shorter. I ended up, through my psychology, and to tell you the truth, I didn't even I was frustrated with my life. And I'm just walking down this street in Sandy Springs, which is a main street, one day. I was off, and I saw this sign, and it said, the link. And I had no clue what the link was. But I walked in there, it just caught my eye. And I says, what do y'all do in here?
That's funny.
And the woman said, this is a counseling center. And I said, what do you mean? I says, I had some psychology. What do you mean counseling center? And she says, well, we help people. And I says, well, I feel like I'm fumbling now in life. And I'm 21, maybe 22. And I said, I need a direction. Can you help me? And they said, yeah.
So you literally just walked and seen this sign. I mean, to me, that's a little more than a coincidence.
Isn't it?
I don't know if you're spiritual,
I'm very much spiritual.
Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely
I'm very
that
much
was definitely a
spiritual.
path that was put right there for you and you followed it.
The link, I still see that sign in front of my face. I have all my life, because I was like, what made me really go in there?
That's crazy. It's so awesome. I mean, that's a story itself. That's awesome. I love it.
And so they assigned me to a counselor, and she asked me if it was okay. She was doing her doctrine, if I would be one of hers to tape.
Right.
And so I went, fine, if that's what will help you.
Right, yeah.
Because they did slide and scale. So when I went in there, I might have just been paying $1 or $2, maybe $5 maximum due to my income, because they also looked at, how much you paid for rent, utilities,
Right,
and all
right.
those various things.
Yeah.
And so I says, yeah, if you need to. Well, I would love to hear those tapes today, but it was trauma.
Yeah.
Going through Daddy leaving the way he
Right.
did, going through my brothers and sisters, the way they had to get through school and we all had to work and all that stuff. And then how, she started losing her furniture, and we already heard that part of the story, but that was trauma.
And I mean, if you didn't mind, I didn't mind stepping back just a little bit, because how did your dad leave? Just because, and you can just a little bit. You don't have to
Just
go too.
a little bit.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
will.
because we
It'll
can
be
get back to
big.
where we was. I know people's going to be like, well, how did I? She didn't say, about your dad leaving. So just
Okay, I'm going
curious.
to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to start writing a book.
I mean, if it's,
Next.
I don't want to.
No, we're not going to get off subject,
Right.
but I'm just want to
I
tell
mean,
you.
I don't want to.
I'm going to start writing a book because I've been asked to. I'm doing a poem book right now, but that will be published
Yeah.
soon. But I'm going to do a book starting next year. But my father was from South Texas, and he was Native American. And then he was signed by these men to get into the Army as white. And so that's the only way he could get into the Army. So he came over, and he was told to always say he was Italian. So he came to Alabama, decided what in the service he was going to be at that time, and he ended up being Signal Corps. So Signal Corps was out of Fort McPherson, Georgia. And that's how he met my mother. And then my mother loved him, thought he looked like Valentino, and my grandparents loved him too. So what messed him up was Korea, the first Korea. He had already been to WW2, but he was young, so he was believe it or not, can I say something political? You may want to cut it out.
No, go ahead. You can. No, you're fine. You know.
Is that he was stationed in Greenland, and I've got pictures of that.
Yeah.
To where D-Day was being talked about, and he was stationed there for communications, and they needed that privacy there for the Prince and Churchill, a representative from the United States, developing some of that strategic area. And he's just a real young guy.
Right.
So he was doing well in communications, but he had to come home and leave and come home. And as you know, babies happen.
Right.
So anyway, so mother lived in Atlanta with her children. And so then eventually, after World War II, Korea happened, and he went to Korea with MacArthur. And MacArthur did a very bad plan, and it really put his he lost his position. Is that he thought he was going to be able to take North Korea real fast, and with his military and Marines, basically. Yeah. And he had just this little squadron, which my father was in charge of for the actual officer area. Mm-hmm. Okay? Well, at the last minute, he sent over on the other side of the reservoir. It's called Lake Kusan Reservoir. Well, Mao didn't want us to get that close to China. And so Glenn Burns has the history of this, but he doesn't tell this little piece and in there because I'm quite sure they have it documented that everybody died on the right side, because that when they swarmed over, the Chinese swarmed over on the little army side, some of them got captured, and my dad was able to get some of them out of there, and they had to walk across a frozen reservoir. And they thought they were going to catch up with the Marines. And once the Marines weren't there, because the Marines already figured that if they weren't making it, then
they wasn't going to make it.
They've gone
right
over there. And that's what the officers thought. I mean, the heads thought at the bottom who planned this. Anyway, so he just kept the morale up, and he lost maybe one, but they crossed that reservoir, and then they kept going, and he kept going. And you see at the very end of that movie a man with too big of a helmet on, an army suit, waving and smiling. That's my daddy.
And what movie? Is this? They made a movie about it?
Glenn Burns has Reservoir Kusan. I think that's Chosin, and it's the Battle of Lake Kusan. I think that's how it goes. With Glenn Burns, he's the one that does all those educational war movies and history, and he gets it all documented and everything. He barely talks about that, and like I said, I think they just figured everybody died, so he was a few of them at the tail end, and they got on. You see them on the truck because their feet were so frozen, that they were allowed to be on the truck.
That's crazy.
And so my dad was waving. So, it caused him what we call PTSD now. And he got a lot of accommodations and a special award and stuff once he hit California, and everybody put a few pieces together. But he didn't get over it. So when he got home to Georgia, he went to the wrong house. He went to my grandparents' house. He thought my mother was there. and all his kids. So my grandparents took care of him for a couple of months and didn't call my mother. And then after 2 months, when they got him out of shell shock, because my granddaddy understood it and everything, my grandmother, they called Dot and says, "Guess who showed up here?" That was my mother's short name. Her name was Dorothy. And she came, and they went to the house and everything. And my grandfather was trying to get him a job in Georgia. Now, what's the problem with Georgia? If he's Italian, and if he's got dark hair,
Right. Yeah.
and cold brown eyes, and if he stayed out in the sun too long, he tanned very well.
Yeah. That made it tougher for him to get a job.
My grandfather couldn't get him on with General Electric.
Right.
So he finally got on.
Definitely back in and that was what, in the 50s? Or
Early 50s.
early 50s, yeah.
And so, because I wasn't thought of at that point. Let's see. I'm trying to think how it went. I wasn't thought of, because I wasn't around yet. And so he went back into the service for a little bit, and he just went around to Signal Corps locations and stuff like that and helped. And so he traveled a lot. And then along comes Nancy, and they thought that was the last one. And then a couple of years, 2.5 years later, comes Deborah. But in the meantime, my dad, so
you was a baby.
of 7. So my daddy wanted to go to Europe to be his last thing. He's getting up to 20 years. And so he goes over there and he requests us, and we all go over there. So I spent my first 4 years in Europe, and a little bit of France and a little bit of Germany. Then we came back. What happens in Georgia again?
Right.
Now we're at 1960. We're still not there yet.
Right.
And he couldn't get a job. And my grandfather is still trying to help him with being a bus driver at that time and everything. And so he asked Mother to move to California because he felt like California was more conducive. But my mother said she was naive at that time. She didn't understand why. So he got to drinking worse and found a woman and took off, and that was it.
Oh.
Got to drinking really bad.
Right.
Yeah. And took off and went to California and stayed in California. And then I did not know my father until I was 40. So that's the situation with that. But getting back to
after you walked into Link.
Okay, the Link. So all of that was trauma. So the woman, believe it or not, after she realized my scores and everything and what came out of the test, she helped me to get focused on a job I was working cable. Was there somewhere in cable I could work to where, and I didn't even know this, she helped me figure it out, that they would pay for maybe a class of night school. So I went into a clerical area, and even though I hated clerical, but I did, since I did cable, I did the cable drawings and all this stuff. I worked with the drawings, and since I did electrical, I worked with the drawings for cable and all of that. So the bottom line is that guy started, the general manager there, I walked in there one day, I says, "Do you mind if you would pay for me, I'd like to go to drafting school at the college and CAD school eventually and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, you're smart. There
That's
you go.
awesome.
Another
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, that's
another little miracle.
that was all a purpose that you followed. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
started from you seeing that sign.
And he was a wonderful man. I haven't I lost touch with him. Well, and then so I went over, and instead of the school I started with, I went over in Marietta, and I tried to get in with Georgia Tech because I had the scores for it. Georgia Tech said, we don't have night classes, but there's a school up here as our sub-school, and it's called Southern Tech. Go there. So I go there, and yes, they accepted me, and I started my classes, and I got to tell you this one about this time in age, because you're going to go, oh my gosh. Is that my first class was after drafting. I had already had is a math. And the first day, and still, I was not quiet. I was real shy. That may be another reason why I never met anybody. And I was a bookworm, very much.
That's tough. I mean,
You know, I read quite a bit and stuff due to all the different kinds of work I was with the guys and stuff. I'd just go home and read and stuff. I did have my party times. You know, I'm not gonna lie. Young people should have them
right. Yeah.
while we're young.
Yeah.
I heard that on a comedian show the other day. Why aren't you doing it while you're young and stuff? Because you sure don't want to do it at 70 and 60 and
Right.
whatever. Because
Right,
you're going to be, and when you got kids, it's not going to happen. So
Right.
anyway, so I started there, and I was sitting there in class, and he made me stand up. And he says, gentlemen, look around. This young lady is here in this algebra class because she's looking for a husband. She looks very attractive. So turn around, Deborah. He literally said this to me and stuff. And I did it because I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I turned around and then he says, you can sit down now. Now, I'm just telling you guys, I says, that is why she's here. That is why any woman comes to engineering school. And I just wanted to absolutely knock him upside the head, and I still remember his face. And I just could not believe it that, at that.
But why would, I mean, so it was, maybe I understood it a little different.
Little different.
Yeah. So, because he was saying like it was a insult, basically,
Yes.
is what he was saying.
Well, technically, you got to get back
Right.
in time. Women didn't go to engineering schools
That's
much.
right. I gotta
Especially-
step back and understand it. Yeah. Yeah. That's
They-
right. Yeah.
Especially at night.
Right.
If
I
they
got
were
you.
going to go,
I got you.
which I have a few friends that graduated from there, just so happened, from the same high school I
Right.
went to, that I'm quite sure the counselors helped them. But anyway,
So he stood up and say it, if you don't mind, one more time. You said he.
he says, young lady, I want you to stand up and turn around. And I did. And he said, young men in this room, he says, I want you to know women do not come to engineering schools except to look for a husband.
Okay. No, I get what. Yeah. That's.
And then I sat back down. And I stayed in his class and I passed, but I couldn't. That is how unbelievable to think about a
That he
professor did something like that. But
Yeah.
I was one of very few women on campus, like I said, at night,
Right.
because women went during the day.
Right. Right. It was something about going at night is when.
Yes.
so he was
and
basically-
I had to make sure I parked real close to the campus door. You know, the where the college doors were, the campus doors
Right.
and stuff, because of it was dark when I came out, and there was a lot of guys on that campus
Right.
and stuff.
Is that why most of women didn't go? Because being dark and all the guys and all that, or at night, or is it? Yeah, I mean,
I think it was mainly because the women who went during the day had the money to go to college during the day,
I got you.
whereas I was working.
Right. You
And
had
going
to
at
work.
night.
You had to work, and got you.
Okay, I left
Yeah.
that part out, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're good. Yeah, I understand now.
I worked and
You worked a full-time job and then went to school at night.
yes.
Right.
And so I took the long road, and I had to take the long road. So, but after I got a couple of classes under my belt, I saw an ad in the paper. I was because I was at that. It was called Cable America, where the guy was paying for the classes. And I knew we were going to close because all the cable all over Metropolitan in Atlanta had been installed. So I was looking for another job, and I had some classes under my belt. So you've already figured out that also I have initiative. So I found this ad, but it was way out in the country, and you had to drive up this road pretty far, and we used to call it Alpha-Damaretta. Not Alpharetta, Georgia, but Alpha-Damaretta. And Roswell was right next door, and it had no, you could not drink. The only place you could drink is go to a restaurant that had some liquor there. It was the Blue Law.
Yeah.
And so I went up there and I applied for the job. And boy, did I do some smooth talking. Somehow I got that job. And they hired me. And they told me that a year later, they almost let me go, but I stayed every day after work an hour to learn more and more and more on my own pay,
That's awesome.
my own
Right.
thing, just because it was still open. And I'd go back in the shop and I'd talk to the guys and I'd learn how to the machine work. I learned how to cut steel. I learned
That's
how
crazy.
to do the steel. I learned how machining. I learned how the electronics and all sorts of stuff. So
So they respected that. They had to have really respected that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I learned every part as I was going, and they did. And I was still silly willy at times in there with the engineers, and they were just, because I finally felt like I had my niche,
Right.
So I would joke with the guys who were working in there in the engineering department and drafting and stuff. And then the oldest man, who was an engineer, took me aside and put me under his wing and started teaching me ways to do things faster, better. After the year went on,
Right. Right. After he realized that you really was about to do this regardless.
And I think about him. Sometimes that was another door because I listened.
Yeah.
Some people could have took that as an insult and walked away and just said, no, but I listened to.
Yeah.
And boy, I got where with drafting, I could cut and paste and do what he told me how to do and do my drawings just as fast and just as clear and as good as him and stuff. So as we're going along, I'm making more money. Okay, I'm not making as much as a lineman. It way dropped, you know. And so, and everything, and I'm helping my mom and with doing things and going back and forth and all of that. And then my sister was very sickly and she had that daughter. And so I was helping with that, and I just have to tell all that. So finally, I'm living in apartments, and every time I have a roommate. So my roommate always had the better TV. I just had a black and white that was a carry, black and white that we had down at the house. And two things that helped me with that was to learn how to be frugal. Right. Because with that black and white, I could see just as much television if I could. By the time my roommate could afford to get a color television, and MTV came out, and we'd watch that, and stuff that she had her shows, but I had my shows, and I could watch them on the black and white. It didn't intimidate me at all. What it taught me was that, okay, I can always visit somebody else with a color TV.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't need to go out and buy me one.
Right.
Okay.
But you was able to watch hers as well. I mean, you know, if you needed to.
That's it.
Right.
So what is that? That's cost savings.
Right. Yeah.
That put a little money in my money.
Right. Yeah. Because you're right. It makes sense.
Now, what's the other thing I did?
Some people don't understand that.
Yes.
But, you know, yeah.
Okay.
I understand that.
Okay, that's cost savings. Mm-hmm. Okay, the other thing I did is, and I had always done this, and I still do it today, is that every time I got change, I'd always have me a jug, and I'd put my chain in there. And I wanted to buy a house. I had saved up money to buy a house. Now, how did I do that? I still did not have no color TV. And everybody else had.
You saved your money.
And I didn't go to Macy's. I didn't go to Dillard's.
Right.
I went to that shop to get my cute clothes.
Right.
Due to my feet are so small, I did have to go to shoe stores and buy my 4.5, 5 shoe.
Yeah.
That was price and stuff. But I had to save money. And on the meantime, I had to buy books.
Yeah.
So some of that, I finally did figure out how to get some grants with the school because I drove the woman nuts in that grant area until she gave me a little bit of money to where I could cover my books and stuff. And I had a Toyota, and back then, a straight stick. What do straight sticks do? A straight stick.
Right. Well, yeah, you have to go to change gears.
You have to change gears, but what else is it known for?
Oh, it saves for gas.
Besides saving gas. Okay, we're going back in the day. Everybody knew this. Okay. With a straight stick, you could park your car just at a slant, and if for some reason you can't turn it over, you know, your
You could start it.
alternator,
I got
you
you,
could
yeah.
do, you could
You
kick
could push
it,
start it.
you could push start it, or you could kick it off
Yeah.
in second gear, and
Yeah.
bam, it
I
would
should have
go.
known that. But
And it
yes.
would go, and it would go.
Right.
So I had this Toyota, and I still had this Toyota. I wasn't. Everybody had better cars. Everybody's doing better, but I kept my car.
Yeah.
Why did I keep my car?
Because what was the point of not keeping it? I mean, if it's, you basically was living that style of, you know, if it's working, don't get rid of. I mean, it's working. There's no sense in buying the best,
Of the best.
you know, best of the best.
Because I wanted something more
More.
than what I came from.
Right.
I wanted something that I could put a roof on my house. I didn't want to have apartments from left to right in
Right.
my life. And
Right.
so when I said the companies moved from there to there, I found the center point, and that was where that little place was that I started off with in engineering. And so I started looking up in there, and it was growing, and they had a small subdivision. And I found this house that looked like it has not been lived in for a little while. But I walked around it, and I thought, well, looks like it's in good shape. Now, we're talking about a woman who's never bought a house, who's looking at a house and says,
But we're talking about a smart woman back then. The way you've talked, you've been, you know, so you seem like you was, you know, you was a woman that read books. You was a woman that researched. So I would have.
I was researching.
I would think that if I would have thought back then, you know, picturing you walking around his house, I'm picturing you pretty much knowing what you're buying. That's my opinion. Now I'm just,
Yeah,
you know.
but yes and no. But yes, in a lot of ways. So the other thing also during all of this that I'm doing, every once in a while I had my brother Buzz was single. I used to go over his house, and when he had his home, I'd help him do some construction. Like he taught me how to sand, drywall,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. He taught me a few other things as we piddled around his house and out in his yard and stuff when I got over there. And so you're right.
Yeah.
I'm always
Right. Well, I figured that. I could tell.
And so I'm looking around this house. The yard was grown up in the back and everything. There was woods in the back, but it had a nice wire fence and everything. And so I didn't know a whole lot about buying a house, but I knew I had enough money to get what they call, which they still do now, FHA loan. And so I go to a bank. And in the bank, they said, and it's $1 million. And you have to understand, I was very intimidated still. I wasn't, even though I had, even though I had all of this, I still didn't have
Right.
the confidence a whole lot
Right.
yet.
Right. Got you. Right.
Okay. Because I didn't have that paper in my hand yet.
Yeah.
And so he said, why should I loan you money for that house if you're by yourself as a woman? What are you going to do if you get sick? I didn't know what to say, so I got up and left his office because he wasn't going to help me at all. I could tell by his attitude I was that smart.
Right.
So I go home, I get on the phone, and I call my brother Buzz, and I says, this is what this man said to me. And he said, now I know I make more money than you, but I'm single, and nobody in a bank has ever said to me,
Yeah.
Well, how you going to pay the payment if you're
Right.
single?
Right. Right.
He says, Deborah, just check out another bank.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so I went to another bank, and it was man, and I had the same thing. And so I gave it one last try. And actually, it was, I don't know why I didn't go to them first, because it was right next to almost right next to the subdivision. There was a small bank there.
The same subdivision.
But it was getting near the subdivision.
Right.
And the subdivision was one little street circled. Excuse me. And so I go in there, and I tell the woman I want an FHA loan, and talking to her, and I told her what happened to me with especially the man down the street. It was, I don't remember the name of the bank. It's gone now.
Yeah.
So, and she said, I'm not seeing his point, but you are young, you are by yourself, and I'm 29. Okay.
Right.
And I'm going to get on the phone right now, and I'm going to call a woman, and I think she's going to help you get that loan. And she calls this lady, and she meets me at a restaurant, and right near the house. I show her the house and everything. And also, instead of going through a real estate agent, I don't know how I did this either. Instead of going through a real estate agent, I located the owners of that house. And I said to them, and this technically may not have been legal, but I said to them, if I'm Deborah Billings, and I said, I like that house at 240. And after you get through with the agent, if you don't have a buyer, would you talk to me direct?
Right.
And believe it or not, they didn't get a buyer because they said, well, it's going to only be a few more weeks.
Oh, okay. Right.
Has God been by my side?
Man, like the whole way. The whole way. Yeah. Blessings are dropping right, left and right. Yeah.
And so they call me. I get in touch with the woman because she's already thinking about this. And there was a thing called Bankers Bank. And I don't know if it exists anymore in Georgia or what, but she did everything. She did all the paperwork. She helped me get my deposit together, asked for the proper way for the closing. She helped me.
That's awesome.
And you know what? The people even lowered the price of the home because I wanted it. They met me. They walked me through the house.
We're going to take a quick break.
So I'm still working, still doing everything. And I have this boss when I'm managing this engineering group, and he calls me in his office. Now, this is after I buy my house. I think I might have had it 4 or 5.
And that's fine. I mean,
4 or 5 years, something. So I don't have to be exact with the years. Okay. So, and everything. He says, Deborah, you are doing project management work. You are sitting in there in all these meetings with project managers. You're answering the questions. They're looking at you for the answers. They're just doing the fuzzy work. You've got to quit work and finish your degree. And I said, that's easier said than done. I went, he's right. So he also knew the company was having some problems. And he knew that it was going to be closing and then something's going on and stuff. So he was doing me a favor too. But the company did have some problems. They did keep me for a little while longer than anybody else. For a methanol plant in Colorado, they asked for me to stay on it. And so then everybody else was leaving. And so then after that, my job was over, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I said, well, I don't have children. I would be putting them through possibly beginning college or late high school, be doing some things. So I'm going to just walk over to that college, see if I can get full-time schedule. Yes, I'm going to have to pay some money for it, but that's where I'm thinking.
Right.
I would have to do a child and stuff eventually, so I rented out my house.
And just
And
there you go.
I rented out my house.
That's awesome.
And just so happened, I can't remember now how I found this couple. But this couple was building a very nice house up in this county north of where I was, which is Alpharetta. At that time, Alpharetta and Common area, and the taxes were cheaper, and people were moving up there. And so they rented my house and paid my note. And so I had a friend that let me live at her house and for that year. And then when they moved, I went, gosh, the house looks good. They took care of it. They paid the note. Now, how am I going to make it the rest of this some year? I got one more year. So I called up the finance company, and I told them, and I says, I'm going to write a letter, and I'm going to give you the paperwork, and I would like for you to, and I know I'm going to have to pay interest at the end, to quit my house note for 6 months, please. At first, the woman thought I was crazy. And I says, please listen to me. I'm going to be an engineer, and I'm going to be making good money, and I want to finish this. And the only way I'm going to be able to do it is I can't have a house note, at least a certain period of time.
Right.
And so they called me back because I sent, back then it was fax. I sent in all the fax paperwork, that everything I had. I wrote an appropriate letter, documenting why and everything. And believe it or not, they gave me 6 months.
That's awesome. People just don't get that.
But I documented everything for them. I wasn't even what I was doing in college, my courses and things, so they would know this is really happening.
Well, you took that, and what's amazing about that is you took that jump that most people don't. Most people would have never known that you could do that unless you actually try. And
I didn't.
Right. Well, I know. That's what I'm saying. But like, you just was like, I got to do something. I'm going to try this. And come to find out it worked out, and yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. The second thing I did after that happened is by that time I had gone into more money, so I didn't have the old yellow Toyota because it was going to die on me. So I had a Nissan.
Sure, it's a Toyota.
I went over 200. I went over 250,000 miles on that thing.
Oh, you still had plenty of time.
I did, but I thought I did.
I know what you're saying now.
When I turned it in, I was like, this was back in the day. You didn't have to sign that stuff where you were the speedometer and all that. And I was like going, oh my gosh, Lord, please don't.
I bet nowadays, now you look back at that and you go, man, that car would have lasted me probably a lot more.
I could have a lot longer. Well, I got a Nissan, and so I was making Nissan payments, and so I did the same thing with Nissan. That worked on the house. I did the same thing with Nissan, and I got in touch with them. I sent all the paperwork through fax, blah 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 blah, and
That's awesome.
And it worked. So they didn't go out 6 months.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They gave me 3.
But I mean,
They ended up doing a little bit more because I did well. But they ended up, I think, taking it out to 4 or 5 months, something like that. But I had to. There's interest on the back end.
Right, to do that. But
to do that.
Right.
And stuff. But they gave me that breathing room. So, boy, did I pour through the classes. Boy, did all this time I'm pouring through classes and getting all my classes done. And I did not even have time to socialize. I didn't have time to do anything. I was helping my mother in different things. And then also my mother cried when I got that house.
Oh, I bet.
When she lost her house, she came into that house and she said, "This is my house, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, it is, Mother."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Stuff. So she used to come up there and she used to do a little cooking. And she'd bring my sister and do a little cooking and stuff. And then she would clean up for me because she knew that I was doing so much studying and doing stuff. And so then also, remember, I rented my house.
Right.
And I learned somebody will make the payment.
Right.
I was scared to death to move out and put my furniture somewhere else. And then the other thing I forgot about when I talked about moving into the house is that I went, and this is a bad thing that people do when they get their first home because they're so excited. You don't go out and buy all new furniture. So, as time went on, I went, I'm graduated. Unfortunately, my mother passed before I graduated. But she did find out I was going to graduate, and she says, "You're finally through with those books." And stuff. But I went, I'm going to see if I can get me a condo, which was actually a townhouse, further up, cheaper, with a FHA. It's a higher interest rate, and have somebody pay the note.
Right.
That is how I got into gambling with my.
Right.
I kept my credit good. Gambling with my taking the gamble to get a piece of property.
Yeah.
As I went, okay. The next thing is, how do you get a good renter? And the real estate agent that helped me connected me up with a rental company that did not charge a lot. Because why should they when they have a lot of properties?
Right.
You know, if you get a good one. And so they placed the person in there, and I kept it a year, and I sold it. And I made a nice chunk of change. And if I would have kept it, I would be rolling in the dough because that area grew quite a bit. But I didn't. And so that was the beginning. And one thing that I always had a knack with, and that was with my own house. And insurance, the guy who insured my house went, gosh, you know how to pick a house. He goes, location, location, location. He says, did you realize, and I says, yes, a little bit, that even though there's cows down the street, on one side of it, there's new construction? And I went, yeah. He says, did you notice that there's a hospital about a block and something away? I said, yes. Did you realize that they're expanding the expressway and you're probably about 1.5 miles away from the maybe it was 2 miles away from the exit? And I says, no, I didn't realize that one. And he says, I know because I'm in the insurance business. And
That's awesome.
No. And he says, it's called location, location,
Location.
We're going to take a quick break.
There are two things I always look for. When I look at, I did a house here. I don't do houses anymore. You've got to have a long...
So you do condos?
Yeah. You've got to have a long-term I'm trying to think vision for a house. Now, because there are two things that happen with a house when people rent a house. I was real lucky with my house. But they make it their home. So when they make it their home, I may sound tacky here, but when they make it their home, some people has the ethics of keeping it clean, and some people have the ethics of they're too busy and they don't have time to keep it clean.
Right.
And stuff. And so then it deteriorates.
Yeah.
And so your investment, even though you're making more money off of that home, you're actually not making more money because when they leave, you've got major cleanup.
Right. So enlighten us on that a little bit because I'm a little confused. So two things that I was curious about was because you said condos and I didn't realize that. I was actually thinking you was just talking about houses, but what's the difference between, why is a condo cheaper than renting a house?
Okay. When you have a house, you got a bigger yard. You got more piping. You've got city water coming in and stuff like that has to be taken care of.
Right.
You have either a water system or else you don't have a system and you have to make sure the owners turn on the water system or some kind of system.
Right.
So you got grass or else your grass is going to die.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The backyard, of course, you want to have it fenced and everything. Now, when you have it fenced, and if they have children, which is nothing wrong with children, you got to remember there's going to be play sets and stuff like that.
And all kinds, yes.
And all sorts of things. Now,
Pools.
Pools.
Yeah.
That is nothing wrong with it with a house.
Right.
But that is if the person wants to leave.
Right. You have a big hole where there was a pool at or dug out with the ground. I caught you as soon as you was saying it. That makes sense. The
Now-
yard's not pretty no more. Yeah.
And so I find now, if I was young like you and could do a lot of this stuff, I would get there's a couple of subdivisions I'd look at if you were interested in houses.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't have that capability anymore. So what I find when you go into a townhouse or a condo, one thing is you're always going to have HOA fees, and the HOA fees is going to cover all that yard. It's going to have the pool. It's going to have the tennis court. Or if it doesn't have a tennis court, that's fine.
Right.
But it covers those things. And then the maintenance of the snow here.
Right.
The always includes water. Some of them includes electricity.
Right.
You know, the fee may be high of somewhere between 3 and 4, but it's all done for you.
Meaning the finding the renters and stuff?
No, meaning you don't have to take care of all of that.
Right.
And the person who is renting it doesn't have to go out there do all of that icing and de-icing and all of that stuff.
Right, yeah.
And everything. And taking care of the yard and the bushes and all of that stuff. It doesn't have to be the most pristine property either when you're doing condos and townhouses and everything.
That's so smart. I never thought of that. Like that's
genius. When you go into a townhouse or a condo, just think about it compared to a house. A house sometimes has basements, or a house has a lot of attics and stuff like that. The ones that I had chosen, they're flat, but they're big. One of them's smaller, but one is pretty large. It's 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and the other one's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. And the kitchen's in the living room, and they all have porches and stuff. Is that every house has a big utility room. So you've got a bigger water heater. You've got a bigger air conditioning system to pay for. You have a lots more kitchen. Of course, I like to match the appliances and all of that and have the color coding. I don't have to have the latest cabinets, but I try to pick out places that has decent cabinets. I always replace and put the new flooring,
granite countertops, all that. If you can't,
I don't do granites.
Don't do granite.
But I do the floor.
Yeah, because that's more for like if you resell, I guess. Yeah.
Resell, if I want to resell. Now, I don't do, if it has a tacky formica, I don't do that. I make sure it's that really pretty curve.
Right.
Pieces in it and stuff like that. I make sure it looks good. I make sure that there's a nice towel behind there so people can clean, and it's not the wall. To where it gets all messed up, and the stoves and everything. So with my house experience, I just didn't. I made money off of it.
How did you? I mean, so how does the houses pay more money, like monthly or? Because you said the houses, you can make more money with the houses, but the condos are. And that's
when I say make more money with the houses, what I mean is that if you get the house in the right location, it'll appreciate more. It'll appreciate more, and you'll be able to make more money off of it with somebody paying that note. Okay.
Right.
Because you're going to be building your little nest egg,
Right.
you know, and stuff. And so, and then I left out something real important. And you probably already know this, but people listening may not. Once I got that house at 29, I had always had the 900 EZ. They have them, I think they have them today, or the 900 online individual tax return. Once you get a house, you get into the 1040 tax area. And if you look at that 1040 form, you've got more deductions there if you take the time to look at them.
We're going to take a quick break.
Can you tell me a little bit about when you discovered, or help me a little bit to see a little bit at your end, how the 1040 form changed you, and you realized with business the advantages you started
Right.
having, and stuff like that, compared to just when you're renting a place, or just when you're doing something that is maybe you're I don't know where you got before you got where you live. So can you just tell me just a tad so I can ask you a question I've got in my mind?
Like when I started learning how to do the 140?
No, when did y'all get married, and then?
So yeah, we've been together for 27 years.
Okay. So it goes way back.
Yeah, so we go way back. But when I first started my business about 18 years ago, I got with a contractor that was, I would say, $1 million, contractor, and we become friends. I did all his work, and instead of me going and just working for a guy and going home, I would stay at his office and just pick his brain.
Right.
Because I'm like, I want to be sitting in that chair.
Right.
I'm still not sitting in that chair. But
I can. Do you go to?
But he taught me taxes. What I did, I learned a lot from him. When I say I'm not sitting in his chair, I've chose that. I could definitely be probably sitting a lot better right now. But what I look back on, and I've told people this, I don't look back at it as bad, and I'm always on Brandon about it, the one that owns this place, because he's work, and I'm not, and I get it. Okay, there's a time where you need to be successful and you need to worry about that, but I can tell you this. I've got, like I said, we've been together 27 years, and I can tell you, a lot of people make jokes, and different contractors that, I got a builder that I do a lot of work for. He goes, "Man, you go on vacations more than I know anyone." And I'm like, we were looking through our phone the other day at pictures, and it was like all the pictures and the moments I have every year of me and my kids going to Florida or going to here, taking them to Disney World, taking them over here. And because I spent that money instead of, maybe working my butt off and not having them, I think I feel better having them, because now that we did do that, I can focus now more on, okay, we had our time. They're grown. My baby just moved out. And so
y'all look too young for this.
So and that's the good thing, right? So, I still got plenty of time to make it happen.
Make other things happen.
Right. So that's what I mean when I say that. So I'm very happy about, I feel like in your situation, you know, that's exactly what I would have done. That's exactly what you should do. In a situation where a person has kids young, you know, it's like it's a thin line there. You know, it's like be successful. I get it, but you don't want to be so successful that your kids don't have no memories. You don't know, you know. And so I try to teach that a little bit, you know, to certain young ones, and you know, and I don't want to hold someone back from you know, moving their journey up and being something. But you don't want to be something, and then you didn't even watch your daughter grow up.
Right.
You know.
I agree.
So that was important to me. So that kind of held me back a little bit, you know. And
it didn't hold you back. It's called family. To me, young people, and this is, I don't care if you're 18 on what, you've heard my life, some of my young life and stuff.
right.
If my mother could have allowed me and had the capability for me to be in her house, I had a part-time job and went to school and paid her some rent and lived in an apartment instead of juggling around roommates and stuff like that, and been able to get through school sooner, I do not demean any young person, and I call everybody young. I don't even care if they're 50 and they're having to start over again. If they're home with their parents and they're doing what they should do with their budget, saving money to get back on their feet, to just got out of the military, maybe they need to go to school. And again, I'm going to bring that up because I've got a lot of resources that I've been connected with, is that there are hand it to them. Now, if they're at home and sitting on their butt and not doing anything for their parents and not, you understand what I'm saying. That's a different story.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But I've seen too many times on Facebook, on some of Instagram,
Right.
some on LinkedIn, is some of my medias. I don't go to some of the others because I don't like it because they put down people too much, or they start the fighting conversations and stuff. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. As long as you are producing and helping society and helping things to get done. Because one thing I do believe, it comes back to you when you help others. A little boy was sitting next to me in the hospital, and the bottom line was, he looked at me and he says, my daddy knew how to take care of me. I'm going to go to college. He's 5 years old talking about college.
That's crazy.
And I was like, now here I am, brain injury patient, waiting for my treatment, thinking, oh, so cute. He's a cute little thing, you know, and he was. And his brother's hitting him, you know how 8-year-old brother, hitting him. What are you talking about all this for? And he's just talking to me and everything. And then when I see what comes out of that door where I'm going to go in, and his mother's eyes are like saucers, and I don't know if that was his brother or uncle. It wasn't a healthcare person, but his father was in one of those major wheelchairs that you had to have all the electronics in the air to breathe, totally laid, you know, kind of sitting but out, just incapacitated itself for, I think he's a veteran. And due to the conversation with the young man. And at that point in time, I went home and I cried and I cried. And I said, I want to help patients with their bills.
Yeah.
I have no children. And I want patients to help patients with bills. And so I started doing that with LLC, and then I went into a foundation. Now, the foundation, how it helps you is that you can donate money to that foundation. I learned this. Those people on PBS that say, oh, this, and how that guy over there in Idaho wanted to run for president and he had no money.
Right.
Okay. You can donate your money into that foundation, and then that foundation pays you under a different tax bracket.
Right.
And stuff. So then you also have deductions there. So then you have your major deduction here. And so then if you really got money, now I didn't and he didn't, we didn't have that kind of money. But if you really got money, I could see where you could have a zero balance in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Of if you're in the mega
Right.
world of foundation.
Right. You're right.
There's a lot of loopholes out there in the world. That's amazing with our taxes.
It was really nice having you on. It really was.
Thank you. And Deborah loves you.
Like, okay, mental health, men's mental health. Has anybody asked you if you're okay?
No.
I went to jail for the first time when I was 10.
Ask yourself.
Ask
if you're
yourself,
okay.
yeah, are you okay? Ask
That's
yourself,
a
are
good
you
one.
okay? You got to be careful because that snake will get you.
First band I was in, I was 16 years old.
It's a lot of heartbreak,
Yes.
a lot of misdirection.
Right.
Drug use gets worse, gets better, gets worse, gets better, gets way worse.
My brother quit
Just quit cold turkey.
cold turkey.
Drugs and alcohol wasn't a problem. I was the problem.